This video is about adversity. Let me think. I'm gonna draw something. Let me know if you guys can tell what it is that I'm drawing. Basically just to stick my stress in. But anyways, like I said, this video is about adversity and how to make it seem like adversity doesn't even exist, and how to make it seem as if it's not even there. How to be unshakable in adversity. Moving on. First, we must come to this understanding: adversity is always going to exist. Okay, it's always going to be there. Adversity is something that's always going to be there within life. Think of it this way: within everything in life, there are two poles. All right, pole 1, pole 2. Now, you can extrapolate this to anything in life, to emotions, to even states of physical objects, to how someone's life is going. The law of polarity basically states that everything has two poles, everything has its yin and its yang. For example, simple one, joy and sadness, or another one could be love and hate. But in this case, we're going to look in towards what adversity really is. So adversity is basically life not going your way. It's basically you feeling emotions that you do not want to feel. Typically, the emotions that you don't want to feel are ones that are going to be negative. So, for a simple use case of an example, we're going to say that in terms of adversity, you either want to experience peace or calmness instead of frustration. Now, like I said, adversity can bring about a multitude of different negative emotions. The same way the opposite of adversity, which would be when life is going the way you want it to, would bring a different multitude of positive emotions. But what we can gather here is through the law of quantum entanglement. Now, quantum entanglement is the fact that, why does that keep happening? Well, it is the fact that alike attracts alike. Okay? Square attracts a square, a circle attracts a circle. That is just a very simple example, but you can extrapolate it to anything. That's why a lot of people will say your partner being a terrible partner is your fault because, you know, alike attracts alike, etc., etc. And it's also like people saying that you're going to meet people who are just like you, because generally in life, the people that you become friends with are the people that you are able to relate with, the people that you can create your own tribe within, the people that you can feel as if you belong amongst. The principle of quantum entanglement is prevalent within every sector of life when it comes to social interactions, when it comes to physical science itself, or when it comes to emotions as well. A mentor of mine always used to say that physical science is playing a game of catch up with mental science or metaphysics, whatever label you choose to apply to it. Metaphysics just stands for beyond the physical. Now, moving on. Oh, also, people would also like to call this the law of attraction. Now, like I already said, the principle of quantum entanglement is literally the fact that alike attracts alike. So, remember how earlier I was talking about how this can cause a multitude of negative emotions. Simply going from one side of the pole, to the other will literally, I guess you could use the word, attract or entangle alike emotions in order to create a state of consciousness. So by shifting from one pole to the other, you then attract the other positive emotions. Now, like I said, going back to what adversity is, it is just the feeling of negative emotions. And usually these negative emotions stem from, an experience that is unwanted or a circumstance that is unwanted. Now, what we're going to do here is to do what I talk about all the time in my videos, is we're going to abuse the fact that the mind cannot distinguish between what? Between your imagination and your reality. Now, because we know this, we can use a simple technique to get ourselves to a state of neutral reality. Just a neutral state, a state of calmness or tranquility. Now, moving on, this technique actually encompassed is literally just I've talked about it multiple times in my videos. This is something I've realized I probably gonna have to repeat this, like just what the technique is multiple times, because when I make my videos, I make them with the precipice. I don't know if that's the right word to use here. Okay, cool. I make them with the intention that this is someone just first stumbling upon my channel, that you're not an avid watcher, because I'll be real, you don't have to subscribe to me. What matters the most to me is this information, you using it and it working for you, and you actually being able to change your life with information, or changing aspects of your life with information. That's really all that I really care about. But yeah, moving on, going to extrapolate what this technique is. If you have already heard of this technique from me, don't skip. You probably thought I was going to say skip. Don't skip, because really and truly, what happens when we, I guess, consume information, whether that's by reading a book or watching a video, what we think we are consuming is the information itself, but what we're really consuming is what our state of consciousness can understand from that information, if it makes sense. What our state of consciousness filters out or filters in regards to that information. So this could be, think of an example. There's not really an example here. It's just, I'm simply saying that. Actually, no, here's an example. When you, okay, cool. I'm not even going to use it in the term of education. I'm going to use it in the term of entertainment. When you watch a movie, yeah, the first time you watch a movie, maybe it was amazing and you feel like there was nothing wrong about it and you understood everything and you saw everything. But after you finish this movie, when you go back and watch this movie, maybe, I don't know, a month later or 3 months later, an entire year later, you'll see things in the movie that you didn't notice the first time you watched it. And this is simply because your state of consciousness has expanded. Another example for anime watchers, if you've watched Attack on Titan, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. In Attack on Titan, or in media in general, whether it's books, films, series, comics, whatever, they tend to do this thing called foreshadowing. Now, foreshadowing is simply just placing something within a story that someone may or may not notice, which alludes to a big plot twist or big event that happens later on in the series. In Attack on Titan, if you've watched that anime, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you watch the anime, there's so much foreshadowing in that anime. But the first time you're watching the seasons, all of the seasons, and you finish it, you don't clock the foreshadowing. You only clock it if you decide to rewatch the anime, or if you're scrolling on TikTok and someone brings forth the foreshadowing that was there to you. So, thinking back to what I said before, your brain filters out the information that you actually receive according to your state of consciousness. So, when it comes to, this is also an advice tip that you can use for anything. When it comes to the books that you're reading, the videos that you watch, or just anything that has to do with getting information in life, it would be a good idea to go back and review, to go back and reread, to go back and rewatch after, I don't know, a month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year. It's all up to you. But I just say that it's important to go back and review. Now, I'm going to extrapolate the technique to you again. And it won't be again if this is your first time watching one of my videos. Cool. So, like I said, it abuses the fact that your mind cannot distinguish between your imagination and your reality and life. What we're going to do is, first, we're going to understand why we're doing the technique in a specific way. So, first what we're going to do is understand what we do within the technique. So the first thing you're going to do, is after you've waken up, it's not after you've waken up, what you're going to do is, when the adversity strikes, obviously, you don't really have to do that. You don't have to do this at all if you're not in a negative emotional state. When the adversity strikes, when you're experiencing that bad experience or that bad circumstance, what you're going to do is simply take a moment. What I mean by take a moment is, the key to this game of mental science is self-awareness, okay? Because like I said, in life, you know, everything has its ties, everything, you know, has its two opposite poles, and within those poles you're always going from the left to the right, from the left to the right, in regards to this case, adversity, and then a life of peace, adversity, a life of peace. The key here is self-awareness, and in order for that self-awareness to, you know, develop, you've got to be able to respond to things that are reacting to them. By responding, I mean taking a moment, pausing, take a moment and actually realize what is going on here, because you need to internalize the idea, not the idea, sorry, you need to internalize the fact that you don't react to your life reacts to you, okay? And your reaction, which really should be a response, is key. Now, you're going to take a moment. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the bed or chair and sit/lay on it. Now, while you're doing this, you're going to feel the emotion. This is prominent within neuroscience. So not prominent, this is evident within neuroscience, okay? Emotions are within our body, like we can feel it in us. Consciousness doesn't just lay within the brain, right? Consciousness lays within everything, but that's for another day. Consciousness, this is evidently backed by neuroscience. You literally have neural networks within regions around your solar plexus, regions around just all different parts of your body. It's not just the brain. Now, this is why when you feel angry, you might feel tense maybe in your hands, or maybe tense in your jaw will start to clench. Or when you feel anxious or scared, you know, you feel that you get that feeling in your chest and around your solar plexus. Okay, when you feel scared, you usually get that feeling around here. When you feel anxious, you get that feeling like in your tummy, in your solar plexus. Okay, and like I said, this is because there are neural networks in all different parts of your body. What you're going to do is you're going to sit on the chair and just, I don't want to say just breathe, because if I tell you to just breathe, you're going to focus on your breath, and that's not what I want. What I want you to do is just relax and feel the emotion. Feel the emotion as much as you possibly can, because the key here is that oh, sorry about that. I think my thing's really bugging today. Anyways, the key here is that when it comes to emotion, when it comes to this word here, when it comes to emotion, no emotion is inherently or objectively negative or positive. They are only given those labels based upon the core beliefs that we have. What emotion is really is just energy, okay? It's literally just emotional energy. And feeling sad or feeling joy are literally just the same emotional energy, which we have given two different poles. Because think about it. When you feel excited, you know, you get that rush feeling. And the area where you get that rush feeling is also similar to the area where you get that negative feeling when you're anxious, when you're the opposite of excited, when you're anxious. The only difference is that our core beliefs have altered the label and therefore given it more power than it should really have. Now, moving on. Jesus, I feel like an anime character. You know when an anime character does that thing, and like the you know when like they make their glasses light up by doing this. Yeah, why I did this? It made me feel like an anime character. Anyway, moving on. You're going to feel the emotion, because what you want to do here is with the emotion. Yeah, I'm gonna have to write it again. Don't know why I even rubbed it out, but with the emotion, what you want to do is feel it as much as possible. You need to feel this as much as possible until you can't feel that emotion anymore. You can't feel that negative emotion anymore, because one of the worst things they'll tell you to do, this is very like strong within hustle culture, they'll tell you to just ignore your emotions and to suppress your emotions. Nah, buddy, we don't do that around here. What you're going to do is you're going to feel the emotion as much as possible until you get to a state of until you get to a state of neutrality. Now, for the people who have watched my other videos, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, this isn't the technique that I thought you were talking about. Listen, buddy, we're gonna get there, all right? Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Okay? The only reason I'm not swearing right now is because my nephew's sleeping upstairs. All right? I don't want to, get any bad words into his stuff. Now, anyways, moving on. You want to get into a state of neutrality, okay? By feeling the emotion as much as you possibly can. Now, once you're in this state of neutrality and calmness and tranquility and whatever, and it doesn't affect you as much anymore, what you're going to do is then begin to shift from this neutral point. Okay, cool. So like I said, there's poles. Everything has its two poles, negative and positive. What you're going to do is you've reached the midpoint, I guess you could say. You've reached the state of neutrality, the midpoint. Now, because you reached this state, it will be much easier for you to reach the state, the positive state. So after you felt this emotion and you've got to the state of neutrality, now it's time for you to begin to shift to the positive state. Now, how you can do this is by going back to this, like I said, using the fact that the mind cannot distinguish between your imagination and your reality. Visualizing, basically. I don't really like that word because visualizing goes with the precipice. I really like that word precipice, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly. Anyways, you don't really care, all right? It doesn't matter about the label that we give to the technique, all right? All you need to know is that first, actually, we need to know is that the technique is not the secret. The secret is your conviction. The secret is you. Truth be told, you are the placebo. The conviction that you have in the knowledge, in all of this knowledge, that you're trying to get all this knowledge. What song is that from? I think it's from Nux. Is it Nux? I don't know. Anyways, like I was saying, yeah, that's Nux. They're trying to get this knowledge. Anyways, sorry, moving on. Like I said, the key is knowing that your conviction in the knowledge that you're learning and that you've learned, and your conviction in the technique that you're doing is what gives the technique its ability. All right, not the technique itself. Okay, now moving on. The technique is as simple as this. After you've achieved this state, most likely, once you've achieved the state of neutrality, tranquility / calmness, you're going to be in the theta state. Now, like I said before, this is probably the last time I can say this because I'm starting to not care anymore whether you've watched my previous videos or not. You're gonna hear things repeated regardless, buddy. You're gonna have to get used to it. Anyways, like I was saying, your brain has multiple, I think it's about 4 states, four states, the four brainwave states that are actually important. All right, the first one is the alpha state. In this state, you're like wide awake. The second one is the beta state. Obviously, in alpha state, probably the state you're in right now as you're watching this video. If you're not in the alpha state while you're watching this video, you know, a bit worried for you, but don't really matter, you know, because you know how else you're going to take in the information if you're not wide awake. Beta state is when you are slightly relaxed and slightly meditative. This is like when you're slightly daydreaming, or you're just, you know, just chilling. And then the beta state is when you're deeply relaxed and in a deeply meditative state. This is when you feel extremely relaxed, your body feels limp, you're almost drifting into sleep, you know, you're like, you're drowsy, tired, etc. It feels really easy for you to fall asleep, like really easy. This is probably like the state you're in the state before you go to bed, and you're in the state right after you wake up in the morning. Okay, now the last one is the delta state. This is the state of being asleep. To be honest, you're just asleep. That is the delta state. Now, like I said, why does that keep happening? I don't know, but I'm gonna sort that out soon. Anyways, like I said, the theta state is the key here. This state, in this state, your subconscious mind, just say the M stands for mind, is most sorry, my phone, I was gonna wear my mouse, is most impressionable. And because it's when your subconscious mind is most impressionable, that is when you're going to want to, you know, do this whole shifting from, you know, neutrality to positive. But yeah, you're most likely going to either be in the beta state or the theta state once you reach that point of neutrality. Most likely, it all really just depends on how long it takes for the emotion to dissipate. So if it takes, I don't know, obviously it would be different for everybody. If it takes, I don't know, 5 minutes, if it takes 5 minutes, you're probably going to be in a beta state. If it takes like an entire hour, you'd probably be close to the theta state. But yeah, like I was saying, be deeply relaxed and in a deep meditative state. If it took you 5 minutes, it's calm. You can just continue relaxing until you feel almost tired or your body feels limp. I wouldn't say almost tired, because for a lot of people, they don't really know when they feel tired, they just fall asleep. So I'd say when you feel deeply relaxed and your body feels extremely limp, you could say that you are now in theta state, and then, you know, begin exacting this technique. And this technique is visualization. Now I'm going to extrapolate to you the scene, the type of scene that you actually want to visualize. So with the scene, there are some key components here. You want to keep it short, 3 to 5 seconds. I don't know why I put the bracket outside of it. Sorry about that. Anyways, you want to keep it short, 3 to 5 seconds, and you want to make sure the scene is in first person, because nobody fucking views their life in a third person camera mode. Alright, if you're not playing GTA 5 or GTA 6, if you're somehow watching this video in 2026 and the game is out, if you're watching the video in 2026 and the game is out, do, you know, shoot an opinion on the game down in the comments. Yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, nobody's fucking visualizing their life, and nobody's seeing their life in third person. At least I hope not. Otherwise, you know, a bit worrying. But anyways, you want to keep it in first person camera mode. Next, you want to utilize the 5 physical senses. Haha, that wasn't in that might have actually been in a couple of my past videos, but I don't think I emphasized it as much. But anyways, you want to utilize the 5 physical senses. And what I mean by utilizing the 5 physical senses is you want to utilize your taste, your touch, your smell. There's there at the Hampton nose for too long. Started a bit there, but we don't matter. We don't matter. Jesus. Anyways, utilize the 5 physical senses, like I said: taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing. Okay. And how you can do this is, there's a multitude of examples. You can literally feel yourself, touching something that would, prove that you're not living a life you don't want to live. Or you could hear a family member or a friend telling you that you have changed your life, or telling you that you aren't as angry anymore, or that you aren't. You can use whatever, really, as long as it utilizes the 5 physical senses and is evident to the fact that you are not in a circumstance that you don't want to be in. And you want to keep doing it until you don't feel the emotion anymore. Like I said, I've said this before previously in my videos. I don't think I've said it in this one, but now I'm going to say it, so it doesn't matter. But emotion is the key. Like, none of this stuff works without emotion. That's what I mean when I say you've got to have the conviction. The conviction has got to be there. The emotion's got to be there. The shuns have to be there. You get me? The shuns have to be there. Anyway, keep doing it until you don't feel the emotion anymore. Because once you start feeling the emotion, it's going to feel like vain repetition. And vain repetition is what we do not want. Vain repetition is kind of the reason why I dislike affirmations. But it's also probably because of my conviction and the fact that affirmations don't work, which also blah 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, you might not, you might do, but that we can have that conversation another day. Like I was saying, you want to keep doing it until you don't feel the emotion anymore, because vain repetition is going to feel bland and pointless in your head, into your subconscious mind. Now, I'm going to give you a quote. I've given this quote before. Oh, Nathan, you've got to stop saying that. Anyways, like I said, this time is definitely the last time I'm going to say it, but I'm going to give you a quote. I've said this quote before, and I'm probably going to say it again for a multitude of my future videos. The quote is this: as a man thinks in his heart, I don't remember if it's a semicolon or a comma here, so shall he be. Now, you've all probably seen this quote before, but the thing that people fail to see in this quote is they read this part, skip this, and go straight to here. As a man thinks, so shall he be. Whereas this in his heart part is literally the key. It's literally telling you emotion is key. All right. And because emotion is key, vain repetition ain't gonna do jack shit for you. I'm sorry, man. It ain't gonna do nothing for you. That ain't gonna do anything for you, buddy. Emotion is key. As a man thinks in his heart, so shall he be. Bro, like, even down to the science, okay? Your brain has an electromagnetic field. So does your heart. Your heart's electromagnetic field is way larger than your brain's one. It is massive. It is massive. And what is that symbolic of? This quote right here: as a man thinks in his heart, so shall he be. Anyways, like I was saying, keep the visualization short, 3 to 5 seconds. Make sure it is in first person, because nobody sees their life in third person. If you do, I'm worried, but also kind of, you know, shocked and curious and bewildered. But yeah, next, utilize the 5 physical senses. This can be sight, taste, hearing, touch, smell, whatever. Keep doing it until you don't feel the emotion anymore. Now this whole thing right here, this whole thing is how you shift from a neutral state to a positive state. Okay, what this is here, I haven't really found a name for this. I haven't really, not yet, but maybe I will find one in the future. Maybe I won't. Don't really care, to be honest, about the label. Just really here for the, you know, the technique. Anyways, this right here is what helps you shift from a negative state to a neutral state. This helps you shift from a negative state to a neutral state. Okay. Wow, I really either need to get an iPad and record these with that, or just get better at drawing with the mouse at this point, to be honest. Or what's that thing? I forgot what it's called. It's like you connect to your computer and literally takes the screen and puts it on the device, on the tablet or whatever, and you can literally draw in it. I don't know. If you know what it is, maybe write it down in the comments for me. I'll probably find out after this video anyways, but yeah, anyways, yeah. This technique helps you go from a state of being in a negative emotional state. Helps you go from a state of being in negative. No, that's way too long. It helps you go from a state of negativity to neutrality, and then this helps you go from a state of neutrality to positivity. Okay. Nice and simple, easy to understand. All right. Is there anything that I've missed here? Right, the last bit. Actually, I don't think there's really anything I've missed here. Okay, cool. Here's one thing. After you do this state, it doesn't mean your life is not automatically shift from the adverse state that it is in to a positive state. But what's going to happen is, due to a change in your state of consciousness, you're going to garner a sense of oh god, sorry, my mouse hit something. A sense of intuition. Wow, my drawing with a mouse is really bad right now. It's not usually this bad. Sorry about this, guys. Your state of consciousness is going to garner or develop an intuition. An intuition, simple word, you know, it just means inner guidance. And inner guidance is simply just inner guidance, inner teachings, inner lessons, like, and this intuition then creates thoughts that you'll be compelled to act on. All right. And because these thoughts compel you to make an action, you will make that action that is in accordance with the said state of consciousness. Okay, so that is, you know, how it will help you, I guess, go from an adverse life to a life of peace, calmness. But like I already said, this can be extrapolated to a law. I already talked about the law of polarity. Jesus, that is a very terrible draw. I'm going to redraw it for you guys. I already talked about the law of polarity, and there being two poles. Okay, look, pole 1, pole 2. Now, something you can also, I guess, add to that is the law of rhythm. Okay, and within the law of rhythm, you have, within these two poles, you will constantly go from I don't really know how to not visualize, how to draw this. You constantly go from one side to the other side to the other, yep, like this. Okay, but the key here, what we do this technique, why we do this technique, is so that we can keep ourselves at whichever pole we want, whether that's pole 1 or pole 2, for as much as possible. Trying to draw a clock here. For as much as possible, and then by being at that pole for as much as possible, we stay in the state of consciousness. We stay in that state of consciousness as much as possible, which gives us the intuition which creates thoughts that compel us to take the actions within that state of consciousness, which will therefore self-perpetuate that state of consciousness. Now, this was just really me more explaining why we do this, the visualization and the whole going from one state to another, one emotional state to another, and then to another. But after this app's really annoying me today. Like there's things that are being created that I'm not trying to create. Anyways, after this, what you can do is simply just be. And what I mean by just just be is just be the person who isn't within adversity. Your identity is now shifted, all right? You're not, be a bit delusional, all right? You're not living the same life that you were before you just did all this. All right, before you just did all this, you were not in the same life that you were then. Okay, even if, oh my days, I had a bang in my mind I was gonna say earlier after this, but I forgot what it was. You see, guys, this is why you always write things down, or just complete or do something as soon as it gets to your mind. A good friend of mine says a lot that I'll post it on a story bare, to be honest, a lot that in life you should try to minimize as much as possible the time between thinking about taking an action and actually taking the action. But now moving on, like I said, you've got to just be. You've shifted to the identity of the person who's not in adversity anymore. So honestly, you've done most of what you need to do. I'm just trying to go back and see if the amazing thing that I was going to say is going to get back into my head. Maybe I've already said it, but I just don't remember. Probably have. But anyways, yeah, that is really all it is for today. One more thing. Because you are now in that state of someone who is, living a calm / tranquil life, your reactions will begin to differ. You can consciously respond to your life now. You'll be able to see things from a different perspective, and you'll be able to extract the wisdom from the experience that you weren't able to extract before, or see the experience from a different perspective. And yeah, really, that is pretty much it. Make sure you write down notes. If you didn't write down any notes as you watch this video, write down some notes right now that you can just remember from memory, just things you can remember that I talked about from memory, and then go back, re-watch the video, and write down some notes, brother. Yeah, I know it sounds all wrong, but the truth is, in life, Excellency follows all the things that are long. Pause. Jesus. But you get what I mean. Like, in life, excellence. In life, excellency, follows people who are able to do boring things. Okay, the key to life is being bored all the time. The key to getting what you want in life is being bored all the time. The key to, you've got to be able to be bored a lot. Obviously not all the time, but you've got to be able to be bored for an extremely long period of time. Okay. But yeah, that is really all it is to this video. I think this might be quite a short video, really. I don't really know. I don't have a timer here or anything, but it just felt kind of short, to be honest. But yeah, that is really all for today. Use these techniques and let me know. Use what I've taught you, what I've told you, and let me know if it helps. And yeah, if it does help, talk about it in the comments if you want, or keep it to yourself if you want. You're free to do whatever you want with the information that I give you. This isn't my information. I'm not taking ownership of it or whatever. This is information that I just know and everybody is free to use, really. It's helped me with certain things. And yeah, I'm just a guy trying to figure out life the same way everybody else is. So I can't claim to be the big boss or whatever. I'm just a student, just like you guys. Anyways, that is really all for this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.